The Special Investigating Unit has told the Parliament that it's close to concluding its investigation against those who are accused of looting the National Lotteries Commission. The body says it has completed 90% of Phase 2 of its investigations, where prominent figures like actress Terry Pheto and musician Arthur Mafokate have been named in the probes. The SIU has been looking into corruption and maladministration at the Commission for the past 3 years. For more on this, we're now joined by the National Lotteries Commission Board Chairperson, Professor Barney. Professor Pityana, thank you so much for joining us this morning. What do you make of the revelations coming out of Parliament yesterday?
Good morning, Aldrin. We are very appreciative of the work of the SIU. It's a kind of professional work that the NLC on its own would never have done. We can now see the extent of the rot in the NLC in the last I don't know, so many years, maybe 10 years or so, and we are very embarrassed as the National Lotteries Commission to the people of South Africa who have been supporting the National Lottery as much as they have been doing. But at the same time, we want to make sure that the outcomes of the very expensive investigations that are being undertaken by the SIU are followed up by the Hawks and by the NPA. And clearly, without that, both in terms of recovery of the large amounts of money, the SIU says something up to 1.4 billion rand may have been misappropriated. And we need to recover as much as we need. At the moment, there are asset forfeiture units that is at work on this matter. And it is important that that money goes back to where it belongs, to the needy and needy of our country.
Yep.
At the same time, obviously, large-scale criminal network has been at work, as Advocate Mutibi says, and those people who were part of that network needs to be prosecuted. And we're looking to the NPA to get moving on the prosecutions as well. Finally, the National Lotteries Commission is seeking legal advice on really taking, in terms of the Companies Act, actions against those board members who were implicated in this, and to try to see if they cannot be declared delinquent directors. So a lot of work needs to be done. But within the National Lotteries Commission, of course, there's a whole change in the way in which things were being done. And that includes paying a lot more attention to controls and improving controls, and making sure that new risk management controls are being put in place, and we respond to the Auditor General's findings as best as we can, and consequential management follows.
Yep.
But that has to be done. But the real work of the National Lotteries Commission is not to find criminals and thieves and that sort of thing. We want to make sure that that does not happen. For that not to happen, we need a large change of mindset, both among the staff and the executives of the Commission and members of the board, but also among the beneficiaries who are complicit in a large amounts of the malfeasance that we are talking about. So we've got to work at different levels at the same time.
Yeah. Considering the amount of money that the NLC has and the NLC has to disperse, shouldn't there be internal controls as well? And I understand that you make the point that the NLC is not necessarily mandated to be investigating malfeasance, but to try to prevent the malfeasance from taking place. And also on top of that, once the malfeasance has taken place, what does the NLC do about it outside of the statutory bodies like the police as well as the Hawks investigations? What about the NLC's own internal investigations?
Aldrin, it's the most frustrating thing at the moment. We've had We've had disciplinary cases against senior executives in the NLC for a year now. They've been suspended for a year. Disciplinary processes have been on course. All manner of defenses have been taking place. The thing is dragging and dragging and dragging. And people are prepared to take whatever Stalingrad defenses can take place, that they can have at their disposal. Secondly, a couple of the staff have resigned in the wake of the processes that are being undertaken. But then we accepted the resignation, but we did not say that actually was wiping the slate clean. And any investigation will continue to take place, and people will be held to account. But you know, as far as the organization is concerned, it is really to create a professional, integrity-driven organization, and that is a longer-term process, and that is what we're working on at the moment.
Yeah, and all of those people that have been suspended, I suspect that they've been suspended on full pay?
They've been suspended on full pay,
yeah.
and the investigations are done. The cases at the CCMA are dragging, and we really are very frustrated about this.
Yeah.
But then that is the law. That is, the people are using as much of their rights as they believe they have. But to you and I and the people out there, it might seem like nothing was being done. But in fact, people are using the laws that we have as best they can in protecting themselves. But ultimately, these matters must be concluded.
Yeah. Has the NLC looked into what could have led to somebody like a Terry Pheto, an Arthur Mafokate, Pityana? These are famous people. Why is it that it seems that these famous people are able to secure the funding from the NLC, whereas on the other end you have multiple NGOs, NPOs that have been applying, and unfortunately they don't get the funding from the NLC? I know that there are a number of NPOs and NGOs that are benefiting from the NLC, but it seems though that it is quite easy for popular people like Terry Pheto, Pityana, Arthur Mafokate to secure funding. Why is that?
That's correct. We have identified the issues around that, Aldrin. The first thing, we've established an inspectorate so that people can actually, upon application, they actually can go and inspect and find out, does this project exist? Is it legitimate? Is it well-founded, etc., etc. The second thing that we have done, we've introduced a need for certain projects like the proof of registration, SARS documentation, and all of that. All of those things are now being required. I have to say they are frustrating quite a lot of people actually in the process as well, but they become necessary in the light of what has been happening previously. The third thing that used to happen is that the members of the board, especially as you can see from the report of Advocate Mutibi regarding the certain famous people like Terry Pheto, is that they have within the board in that instance and sometimes within the senior executives people who actually have been moving against the regulations to give them preferential treatment. There are instances, you hear stories, certain grants were being pushed and paid out within 3 days. Wow. Now that we believe cannot happen, and it's a failure of governance. We've done everything. We're doing everything to tighten up on governance within the organization. Yeah.
The criminal network that Advocate Mutibi was referring to, would you say that it has been dismantled completely within the agency, within the NLC? Because there must be NLC staff members that would have enabled the board members to get all of this money, even going as far as hijacking NPOs.
That's correct. I can't say that, Aldrin, and I can tell you that a few weeks ago I received an inquiry about allegations on somebody within the organization who would have corruptly defrauded the organization on the basis of an organization that is an NPO. We applaud those NPOs who, when they can see something is untoward, they get in touch with us so that we can deal. In that case, we had to get the matter dealt with. Right now, as we speak, there's a large number of investigations that are taking place. But what that does, it kind of creates an environment and an atmosphere within the organization that creates a morale sapping situation. We don't want that to be the culture of the organization, but there is a necessity to try to root out wherever we find it. It seems to me that from time to time we're still discovering people within the organization who are participating in the kind of fraudulent and criminal activities. I think Advocate Motibi is quite right, and unless something is done, the criminal network within the organization has got to be dealt with, and it is being dealt with, but oftentimes it gets exposed when somebody, whistleblower or somebody like that, takes up the courage and actually reports the suspicions that they may have.
Professor Barney, thank you so much for your time. That is the chairperson of the NLC on the investigation being led by the SIU, which it says that 90% of the second phase of that investigation is completed.